This seems pretty accurate, right? Maybe 99, 100% there. Alrighty, I guess so. Time to review John Wesley Harding. This is the mono from the mono box set, and I do also have the. I had bought the stereo version of the album before, before I got the mono box set, because it was kind of recently, Christmas of this past year when I got the mono box set. But the CD version, this is the stereo 2003 remastered version. It sounds fantastic. It's got the thing that it has in the back with the three kings. It has it on the back too as well for the mono mix. So yeah, I do think that these are great mixes. I do like the stereo. Perhaps I kind of prefer that a little bit more, but I think the mono kind of gives it that gritty sound that like really. And those drums too, you can hear like every single like pounding rhythm note of Kenny Buttrey, which I think in my opinion he's a very underrated drummer, I think, in my opinion. And he does very well on this album. Like, he just plays like so much just like he did on Blonde, which is incredible, because I think he's really, I think he stands out a lot in this album, and a lot of the bass too. Charlie McCoy, who plays bass on the album, which he played bass on the previous Dylan albums. But I love the way these guys work together. They're cohesive. They have a rich and enduranced sound on this album. Not to say that the songs are rich, because most of these songs are very I want to say simple. They're very simple. They're not so complex. They're not so poetic. They're not so, there's no surrealism to these songs. These songs are kind of just basically like parables, folk tales, that are just so much related to the Bible, So definitely, for sure. 1966, July the 28th, he got into the motorcycle accident. Columbia comes out in March of that year, 67. They would come out with the greatest hits, the first greatest hits for Bob Dylan. But other than that, he was trying to keep himself, out of the spotlight, trying to keep himself away from the whole, being the figure, the one always be the attention. He feels like he doesn't want the attention at this point here. Feels like he's just low key here. And even this album itself, it never got promoted that much. It came out December the 27th of 67, although there's been other release dates and stuff. But yeah, the official date was December the 27th of 1967. And this album was recorded in the fall, like the late fall of 1967. And but going back to the early, maybe mid 67 or whatever, he would get together with Levon, Richard, and Robbie to do the Basement tapes. And that happened in June, well into September of that year. And I felt like Bob Dylan was pretty pleased with that at that time, but also, with interviews and stuff with Robbie Robertson and stuff, he wanted to actually, they were going to somewhat have the band involved. But I know that they came out with one of the bootlegs. It has the Wesley Harding, and it has Nashville Skyline outtakes and stuff. And I think there's a little bit of, I'm not 100% sure, but originally they were going to have the Hawks actually play on this album, and eventually they never did. So the album was recorded October the 17th through November the 6th and the 29th, and was produced again by Bob Johnston, who had produced the previous album, Blonde on Blonde. And I think he also produced, I could be wrong, but I think he also produced Highway 61 too as well. So yeah, this is a very simplistic album. It feels like there's not so much like we got on some of the other albums that he came out with. Like Blonde on Blonde, Highway 61, and bringing it all back home. The songs in those albums were absolutely fantastic, dark. But I do got to say this album has some dark theming on here as well, and definitely a lot of depression, perhaps. Because at this point, Dylan felt a little depressed. At this point, he was trying to regain his momentum again and trying to be, what he wanted to be. Kind of wanted just to be, just to kind of keep himself, not so big, you know what I mean? So, but however, this album went to number 2 in the United States and went number 1 in the UK, which is brilliant. It went to on the Rolling Stone 500 Greatest Albums. It was ranked at 303. So it's, that means, I do believe this is actually quite a pretty good album. This is actually a really decent album, you know what I mean? I do like it. I know a lot of people say this might be their favorite, perhaps maybe not so, like maybe it's some other, like, a lot of people, ditch this album and they also put down Nashville Skyline, but I love that album too. I mean, Nashville Skyline is a great album. The last track, man, that really leads into his country phase, you know what I mean? So anyways, and we got Pete Drake also doing the pedal steel on these songs, or not all the songs, but the last 2 songs, Down Along the Cove and I'll Be Your Baby Tonight. But sadly, though, before the album came out, I think it was, I'm trying to remember now, writing these, it was 2 weeks before the first session of, John Wesley Harding, Woody Guthrie passed away, October the 3rd of that year. And they also, did a whole memorial thing, I think that January of 1968, and Judy Collins was there. And, Woody Guthrie's son, Arlo Guthrie, at this time he had released, at this time period here, he had released Alice's Restaurant. And, but yeah, a lot of, in 1967, man, I mean, it was a psychedelia era. You had Sgt. Pepper, you had, there's Satanic Majesty's Request. And, which is quite funny because now I'm going to get to the album cover. And, the album cover shows 2 Indian musicians, and the album cover was done by photographer John Berg. And here are the 2 Indian musicians that were brought in, that were at that, in the Woodstock area. This is Albert Grossman's, area here. Anyways, there was also a local carpenter that knew Albert Grossman, and and this was the same coat, by the way, that was on Blonde and Blonde. He wore that album cover, and he would wear it for the next album too. But of course, a lot of people have always said, "Oh yeah, flip the album upside down, and you see John Lennon," and it's like I see it. It's like whatever. Everything has to be a response to the Beatles. Anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the songs. So yeah, this album kind of has a lot of that folk, going on, and a very, very simple, got acoustic going on, but the bass and the drums are absolutely perfect on this album. I do gotta say, definitely for sure. The opening track is John Wesley Harding. Now I wish they could have had. Now I'm kind of nitpicking here. But I wish they would have had All Along the Watchtower to be like the opening track, because I think that would be perhaps a better opener. But I do love the opening to John Wesley Harding, right? He was friendly to the poor, and he had many of hands to hold his rifle or something. So I thought that was kind of goofy. But anyways, there was a real John Wesley Harding. Dylan never really quite, he never really thought of Wesley Harding to be a real person, to be actual real, one that was helpful to the poor and perhaps, lend someone a hand, to help somebody or whatever. But John Wesley Harding was a rifleman. He was an outlaw. He was, someone that was kind of shady. He was kind of like I wouldn't say a bad guy, but perhaps maybe like a hunter, a bounty hunter, maybe perhaps, I don't know. But yeah, a real John Wesley Harding, or Harding referencing the real Hardin, but I don't know. The song doesn't quite really connect. I mean, there is connections to the real Hardin, but as Dylan once said, there's no real John Wesley Harding. But anyways. The second track is As I Went Out One Morning. This is a great song. I really like that upbeat tempo kind of folk tune, referencing Tom Paine. He was the guy, or perhaps the one who was important to America. He wrote The Rights of Man. He was the symbol of freedom. And this song is talking about a girl who's in chains and perhaps is looking for that freedom. Perhaps is running and looking for that opportunity, but it's definitely great. I love that the drums and the harmonica, that kind of, but this, now this is actually the last album for Dylan to actually have that nasal vocal, you know what I mean? But I definitely can kind of tell with that last track there, it definitely sounds like he's going to be changing big time. But anyways, really great song. It's a really good message, perhaps. And a lot of these songs have great messages, definitely for sure. Like this song, I Dreamed I Saw St. Augustine. Really slow. I really like that slow rhythm of Dylan. It's got the harmonica kind of showing up there. There was the St. Augustine dating back to 450 AD. He was kind of a conqueror, somewhat, at that time. But perhaps it's kind of really dark on this song, referring to a mob, if you will, and or trying to put someone into death or something. And it's just really, really, it's got a really almost like a shaky kind of feeling, which really does make this song even more perhaps dark in theme, And then you got the almighty, wonderful, great, all on the Watchtower, right? Drink my wine and dig my earth. Oh yeah, man. Of course, Jimi Hendrix made it popular, in '68. There was a little push over to making this as a single, but Dylan, he was kind of like shaky on that. Never really made this song too big, you know what I mean? But of course, it's got memorable lyrics, there's too much confusion, it's past the hour, A lot of people, and perhaps Dylanologists out there, always point out that the Joker and the thief happens to be, both sides of Dylan, and, I don't really see that, but, I mean, it could be the truth. I mean, I can kind of see it, it's the fall of Babylon. That's to be the truth, talking about Jesus Christ, referencing, of course, again, to the Holy Bible. But anyways, this is, of course, is a classic song. And I think it's maybe a little bit better than Jimi Hendrix. I know Jimi Hendrix makes it a little bit more rockish, a little bit more, more radio and intuitive. But yeah, I really like it. It's 2 minutes. And, hey, wish it could be longer, but then we get the next song, the Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest. The moral of the story is the moral of the song. That's what he says there in the middle bridge there. Pretty long story. It's saying, don't go mistaking paradise for that home across the road story of someone who gets fooled by Judas. It's a story between a guy named Frankie and the Judas, who kind of outsells himself and kind of, gets fooled. And, he ends up getting screwed over, if you will. I like it. It's fun. It's the only long song on this album. Like there's, it's like 5 minutes, but yeah, it's the only quite long song on this album, but it's good. And then we got the last track, Drifter's Escape. I think it's very upbeat, and you can definitely tell that Dylan, the narrator, you can definitely feel, and you can feel, and you can kind of be with the narrator, and you can definitely feel the pain as it tells the story of a convicted drifter who escapes capacity when a bolt of strike. He talks about the strike of lightning, and I definitely feel the pain inside of Dylan's voice. He feels like he's drifting. He's looking. I mean, I can't, other than like figuring out what the story could be, perhaps. But with his way of singing and perhaps his vocals, it definitely feels like he's feeling something. You can definitely feel it in those vocals. Alrighty, then side 2 we have Dear Landlord, or perhaps talking about Albert Grossman, as it could be perhaps pointing out too. But it's about someone who tries or pleases for respect, and there's actually piano on this song. So I think this is the only song I think perhaps that has piano in it. So it's quite shocking that there's piano in this song. Dear landlord, he has like the landlord. He's got the way he kind of presents, or the way he kind of vocalizes. It's a good song. I like it. It's got a nice tempo, like the chorus that kind of change around, and good song. And then the second track, I'm a Lonesome Hobo. This is another great one. It kind of has some slow, but you can definitely feel you can definitely feel kind of bad for this hobo trying to convey this other person perhaps that's gonna be a hobo, but trying to tell them, hey, no, like trying to tell them, hey man, this is not the way of living. You don't want to be you don't want to be in my shoes right now. You know what I mean? And you can definitely feel the pain. You can definitely feel he doesn't know where to go. You know what I mean? He's kind of just off, But you can definitely feel the sorriness for you feel sorry for this guy who doesn't know where to go. He's a Rolling Stone, and can't find a way home and stuff. And trying to let anyone else who's going to be on the same. Trying to be like him, he's trying to tell them no. Don't be like me. And the third track is I Pity the Poor Immigrant. This kind of has a little bit of a same vibe as I Dreamed of St. Augustine. It's got a little bit of maybe a same style of it to a little bit. This definitely is a very dark song. Perhaps talking about someone that maybe I don't know. It definitely has a good story to it. I definitely like it very well, but I just can't. I don't know how I can really put it into words, but I think it's definitely a very playful song. You know what I mean? It definitely has that same feel. But anyways, then we get the fourth track, which is definitely. Because this one and Down Along the Cove are definitely like Blonde on Blonde for sure. Like definitely straight out of the songbook. I mean, I really like that. It's got like a really cool hook. It's referring to the Proverbs of 13:17, based on Eli, a priest in the books of Samuel. Sent by a untruthful messenger. That's what the song, but also could refer to himself, like most of these songs, what I mean? But, it's really got that cool, almost like bluesy, but really got a cool, nice, it has a nice rhythm to it, and it's got like a cool, beat to it as well, and I really like the bass, that really cool bass kind of going along the way, and it definitely is for sure like Blonde on Blonde. And so is Down on the Cove, which is definitely a bluesy song. I mean, definitely for sure, very bluesy. It's got that same hook to some of the other songs from Blonde on Blonde. And then the last track is I'll Be Your Baby Tonight. This is definitely sounding like something from, for sure, definitely that slide and, kind of that country style, which definitely be a big forefront there for him for Nashville Skyline, because that would be his next album. And that's it, folks. That's my review of John Wesley Harding. Harding. It's not for everybody. I do got to say it's not for everybody. I can't really say it could be better. I think a lot of the songs are great. I mean, they really got a nice hook to it. I could definitely feel and definitely hear the stories, the morals. Well, no, not the morals, but the reference thing of the whole Holy Bible. The tales, and I feel like Dylan's definitely coming a long way from what he's doing, and maybe perhaps going back to roots in his style. And 1969 we come out with Nashville Skyline. 68 there wasn't really as much going on for him other than maybe finishing up a little bit of touching up perhaps on some of the songs for the basement tapes. And 69 he finally comes back with with a whole new voice, a whole new approach to music, his style. He's got that crooner voice. He's got Lay Lay Lay. He's got Throw It All Away. Definitely a fun album, Nashville Skyline. And that's it. Thank you folks for watching. Take care. See you in the next review. Bye-bye.